The sources tell Economic Times now that FMC is likely to stop MCX from floating new contracts and that the Myram panel on NSCL seeks CBI representation in investigation. To get more depth into all of that, let's get on phone Mrinalini Krishna, and she joins us on a Delhi phone line. Mrinalini, hi. This really could have repercussions if this does come in, but what are you hearing and where are you hearing it from?
What we are being given to understand from sources within the panel that just met a little while ago to take stock of what has really happened in the process of investigation by agencies in the NSCL matter. Remember, this is a panel that is headed by Economic Affairs Secretary Arvind Mayaram. It has representation from the commodity market regulator, from ED, from EOW, and other investigative agencies and departments of the government. We are being given to understand that the panel has sought CBI representation into the panel to discuss their investigation going ahead along with their investigation report. The panel today discussed in detail the action taken reports filed by both the Enforcement Directorate as well as the Economic Offences Wing that have taken place so far in the entire NSCL fiasco. We are also being given to understand that FMC is keeping a very keen eye out for FCIL complying with the order that FMC had come out with earlier to reduce shareholding. They have time till 30th of April, but if they fail to comply with that order of reducing their shareholding, then FMC could go ahead and stop them from issuing any new contracts going ahead. That is one of the options that FMC is clearly evaluating, and that could spell trouble for MCX, which is trying to comply with all orders that that is going ahead. Of course, there is a rights issue also for mcx-sx that is in place, so they are trying to get compliant with both the orders of SEBI as well as FMC. But if they fail to bring down their shareholding in MCX, then we are being given to understand that FMC is evaluating the option of stopping them from floating any new contracts.
Let's also get in Venkatachari, who's former chairman of MCX and independent director at Financial Technologies as well. Mr. Chari, while we will talk about the Forward Market Commission and rest, but your name finds mention in the NSCL case. What has been your role in NSCL as an exchange?
Zero. My role has been absolutely nothing whatever. Have absolutely nothing. I've had absolutely nothing to do with NSCL. And I was really surprised when I saw the news item in one of the newspapers that the CBI is looking at my role in the NSCL episode. I was shocked.
Mr. Chari, the holding structure of financial technology promoters has led to all group companies come under fire due to the NSCL issue. How do you look at that?
NCDX was #1 in the commodity market. ICICI Bank was driving it, and ICICI Bank, NSE, LIC and NABARD, each of them owned 15% equity in NCDX. Since ICICI Bank had sold away its shareholding to ICE and Goldman Sachs and had withdrawn completely from NCDX, NSE was going to drive it. Now, NSE had 15% shareholding. In order to enable NSE to drive NCDX better, KP Krishnan proposed on file in writing. He made a preposterous suggestion that the Secretary of Financial Services should lean on the chairman LIC. LIC is a public sector organization, and on chairman NABARD. NABARD again is a public sector organization, and ask them to part with 5 to 6% of their equity in NCDX in favor of National Stock Exchange, which would give National Stock Exchange something like 25-26% of the equity in NCDX, and that, according to KP Krishnan, would have enabled NSE to drive NCDX to give competition to MCX. Remember, NSE is a private organization, NCDX is a private company, and MCX is also a private company. What was the propriety of a government officer who had nothing to do with the commodities market making such a proposal in writing in a finance ministry file? And this noting by KP Krishnan was approved by Secretary of Financial Services, the then Secretary of Financial Services, Vinod Rai, who later became the Controller and Auditor General of India. It was also approved by Subbarao, who was then the Finance Secretary of the Government of India, later became the Governor of the Reserve Bank of India a few months later. And it was also approved by the Finance Minister of India, Mr. P. Chidambaram. In my career in the IAS of 39 years, I have never come across such a kind of noting on government file. This kind of noting would have called for disciplinary action against the officer concerned.
Mr. Chari, you have mentioned that officials from Finance Ministry have played favorites. You just said that when it came to the national commodity exchanges. How would you look at all of that, and do you think that now that we have changed places from Consumer Affairs Ministry to Finance Ministry, it would really change things for commodities?
The ordinance could not be translated into law because the UPA 1 government went out of office in 2004. And again it was revived, and then a parliamentary committee went into that Amendment Act. It was not translated into Act which would have strengthened the hands of FMC as a regulator. I really do not know. Nothing has happened in the last 6 months since FMC was transferred to the Finance Ministry. I do not think anything will happen now that we are now in the election mode, and for the next 6 months nothing will happen because the new government will have to come and they will have to get their act together. And therefore, in the meanwhile, the volume of trading in the commodity market, which as I told you at one time was 1,20,000 crores on a single day, it has fallen to something like 20,000 crores. The first whammy was delivered by the Finance Minister by imposing a commodity transaction tax on the transactions in the commodity derivatives business. That straight away brought down the average of 80,000 crores per day to something like 40,000 crores. The unfortunate NSCL episode has further decimated the volume of trading of the commodities business to something like 20,000 crores today. And that is where we are standing. In fact, last year it looked, if the FCRA amendment bill had come through, then there was every possibility of the MCX becoming, it was number 3 in the world. It could easily have become number 1 commodity exchange in the world. I do not think that in the immediately foreseeable future that the commodity business will revive.
Final question then, Mr. Chari. So now the commodity derivatives have come under Finance Ministry. Do you foresee some positive changes or the way of functioning change here?
Let us see what they do. As I told you, the volumes have come down to 20,000 crores. Let us see what they are able to do, what the Finance Ministry is able to do, how they are able to revive the confidence. It looks very, very bleak to me. I do not know whether they have domain knowledge of this area, the new board, the people in the board, whether they have the same domain knowledge that the board under me had a year ago. Let us see what they are able to do. I wish them luck. Having been 10 years as chairman of the MCX, I do feel very strongly for that organization. I can only wish them luck.